Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ashram Talks, where we are studying the timeless teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. My name is Ambika, and I'm delighted to be serving as your host today. I'm joined by Haripriya Assouline Benedict. Born into a Bhakti yoga community in France, Haripriya began practicing yoga and meditation at 13 years old. She holds a BA from Sarah Lawrence College, majoring in psychology. She spent 6 years in India studying and practicing Bhakti Yoga by the mercy of her spiritual teacher, Srila Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Goswami Maharaj. She spent many years in New York, Florida, and California teaching Yoga Nidra to clients such as the FBI, Department of Defense, KKR, A-lister celebrities, and Fortune 500 company heads. She taught Bhagavad Gita workshops and Yoga Nidra teacher trainings in New York and Florida at Pure Yoga, Stanton Street Yoga, Yoga Maya, Om Factory, the Bhakti Center, and the Sanctuary. Thank you so much for joining us today, Haripriya. Today we'll be moving on to the 5th verse of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've been losing my voice, but I will do my best. So first, I would like to pay my unlimited obeisances to my spiritual masters. My Dandavat pranams are to His Divine Grace, Nityalila Pravista Om Vishnupad, Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad, Srila Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Goswami Maharaj, and I pray for His mercy. And I pay my obeisances to Nityalila Pravista Om Vishnupad, Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad, Bhakti Vichar Vishnu Maharaj, and pray for his causeless mercy. And I would love to pay my obeisances to all the participants watching. This is a sacred text, and that you're giving your time and your energy to be here and to listen is not a small thing. So I pray that your enthusiasm to know something deep and to hear something valuable for you blesses me to be able to speak and give you something to hold on to and on the path of devotion to God. I also would love to pay my obeisances to all of you, Ambika and Srila Sadhu Maharaj, and everyone who's organizing and behind the scenes to make this happen. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to exercise this service, to speak on this amazing topic of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Sri Krishna and Arjuna's discussion. I would like to, I'll recite the verses in Sanskrit. I'm going to recite 5 and 6. And let's see. Drishtaketus Chekitana Kashirajascha Viryavan Purujit Kunti Bojascha Shaibhyascha Narapungava Yudamanyuscha Vikranta Utamojascha Viryavan Sobhadro Dropadeyascha Sarva Eva Maharataha. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Panchatattva, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagavan, Jai Shri Radhe Shyam Radha Govinda Dev, Jai Shri Mad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. So to understand 4 and 5, or 5 and 6, I'm going to just read 4 as well because they're all connected. So here in this army, there are many heroic bowmen, equal in fighting to Bhim and Arjun. There are also great fighters like Yudhan, Virat, and Drupada. There are also great, heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kunti Boj, and Shaibya. So that's 5. And the 6 is there are mighty, there are the mighty, Yudamanyu, the very powerful Utamaujo, and the son of and the son of Subhadra, the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters. So in the Bhagavad Gita, obviously this is setting the stage to some degree. And all of these fighters are being listed by Duryodhan, who has some fear. What's interesting is when you read this list of these very, very powerful, great warriors, there's someone missing. He doesn't list someone. And I'll just pause for a moment to see if you have a chance to think about that. That who does he not list that is quite powerful and quite significant? So as he lists these fighters, he's listing those who have arms, who have weapons, who are prepared to fight, but he's omitting Krishna, like the supreme personality of Godhead, who's the most powerful of all the warriors there. So it's quite an omission. It's somebody. It's quite significant that he doesn't mention Krishna's name. So we can understand that Duryodhana is coming from a very material perspective, right? He is seeing Krishna as someone who's decided not to fight. So that means he is not thinking that he's significant enough to even mention. So he's missing the understanding of spiritual power. He's not even acknowledging that the most powerful personality in all the worlds, right? The personality who allows huge globes, the one we're sitting on, to be floating in midair. The personality who has not only planet Earth floating in midair, but so many planets and revolving in a systematic way in the middle of the sky, and so many universes. What to speak of the other amazing potencies that Krishna has. So when he doesn't mention him, he's revealing his consciousness. Um, they say when someone speaks, they reveal their mind, and the mind is ruled by our intelligence and our consciousness. So the most elevated is consciousness that comes from the soul. Consciousness is coming from the soul. It's coming from who we actually are. And then under that consciousness is our intelligence. And if our intelligence is properly educated, and we get the mercy of really elevated souls and spiritual company, then that intelligence will oversee our mind. It will direct our mind. And then the mind will speak the words that are on our mind. So when we're not in spiritual consciousness and we're not in the association of spiritual minded souls who can, imbibe us with spiritual vision, then we're going to have a very material consciousness because we're in this material world. We're surrounded by material elements. We're impacted every day by the material elements and the material things. Our body is one. We're like on this machine that we call ourselves, but it's literally a machine, and we're a soul sitting right inside. And because we're inside of it, we're exposed to this to the elements in the body, and I'll say to the mundane or material uh, aspects of life. And so when Duryodhan omits him, it's because he's not going to fight. So to him, the only thing that is valuable, I'll say the only thing that's valuable is power, might, force, strength, the fightmanship, the actions, the doing, right? So the doing is valuable, but the being is completely lost on him. Now, there's a sweet story about how it came to pass that Krishna is Arjuna's chariot, and that a very large portion of Krishna's army, some say it's 1 million, I can't attest to the exact number, but a very large portion of Krishna's army is on Duryodhana's side. So there was a moment when Krishna was resting, and both Duryodhana and Arjuna came to see him to ask him to be on their side. during this battle. And when Arjuna entered, out of his own awareness of this, of the amazing potency of God, of the superiority to God, so it wasn't thinking less of himself, right? I love this quote actually by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself; it's thinking of yourself less." So, like thinking of ourselves less often, perhaps, that we're thinking of others. We're not completely absorbed in ourselves. So, we're absorbed in the thoughts of how to serve others, how to care for others. Doesn't mean we're neglecting ourselves. We're still valuing and honoring ourselves, but we're not putting ourselves higher than others, or, we're not looking at others in a equal or lower way, so to speak. So, Arjuna had that mood. He had that mood of respect, of honor, of thinking of Krishna as someone higher than him and that should be honored and respected. So he sat at Krishna's feet and waited for him to wake up. Now Duryodhan came in, and I can't speak exactly to what Duryodhan was thinking, but he sat next to Krishna. So whether he thought they were equals, I'm not sure, but he definitely didn't give that mood of humility, of realizing, that the souls that we're small souls, and that God is profound and profuse and immense and immeasurable and expansive. And, he didn't give any due respect and honor. He just sat next to him, waiting to ask for what he wanted. And when Krishna opened his eyes, who did he see first? Right? Did he see Duryodhana or did he see Arjuna? So of course he saw Arjuna. Arjuna was humbly waiting at his feet. And so he offered Arjuna to choose first. He said, I will not fight in this battle, but I will be present on the battlefield. And so you can choose to either have me with you on your side, or you can choose to have, let's say, equivalent of a million soldiers of my army. And again, I don't know the exact numbers. You can look that, we can research that, but it's, on par with a million soldiers. And Duryodhan wanted to choose first, and he wanted the soldiers, but he was not given that choice because Arjuna had taken the humble stance and the caring, respectful, honoring stance. And so Arjuna actually had the choice, and he chose not a million soldiers. And I want us to really think about this. Like, imagine it was our choice. Really put ourselves in Arjuna's shoes. Imagine if we could either have a personality that was supreme, that was amazing, immeasurable, and he was going to not fight. He was going to not participate in that sense. He was going to just be with us. We were going to experience being with him, right? We were not going to experience his active fighting. We weren't going to experience the action of him killing or helping, but we could experience millions of soldiers fighting for us, full-heartedly, powerful soldiers. These are Krishna's army. These are soldiers in God, the amazing personality's army. What would we choose? Now, if we were really attached to winning this battle, really think about it. What would you choose? Would you choose a presence of being, or would you choose someone who was going to offer you, or would you choose the offering of a million fighters who are actively engaged in your battle and trying to get you what you wanted and working hard and doing what they could with all their might and all their strength, and they were very powerful, a million of them doing what they could do to help you get what you wanted? What would we choose, right? And this is a question all of us get to ask ourselves. And it helps us see our consciousness. And there's no good or bad. It's not like, oh, you're bad if you chose the million and you're good if you chose God. It just is poignant to be able to see ourselves. If we want any spiritual understanding, it has to first come from knowledge of where we're at. Where are we? And then where do we want to go? So for myself, I can stop and ponder this question. And I'm not sure what I would hope that I would choose God, the presence of God. I would hope that I would have the depth of understanding that when you're in spiritual consciousness, when you're in the association of those who are spiritual, because God is pure spirit, then we're impacted for our highest good. And we actually get not what we want necessarily, not the material gain, the desire of some physical thing, but we get the ultimate benefit of what is nurturing to our soul, to which means us, We're not our body. So what our body wants, what our senses want, what our mind wants, those are actually disconnected to from who we really are. So if we have deep understanding that we're a soul, we're this beautiful, powerful, enlightened, actually, Satchidananda. So we're enlightened, we're full of knowledge, we're full of deep consciousness awareness, and we're blissful, we're satisfied. That's like who we actually are intrinsically. And then we have the covering of the body and the covering of the senses based on our desires, right? These gifts of the body and the senses were given to us because we had some desire to experience something, to enjoy something. So then we have these layers put on to us. So we can choose to do what is best for the soul, the self, which is obviously spiritual association and the company of the Lord. And the imagine having the company of God. If someone really gave you that option, you could spend time with the personality who runs millions of planets and universes, and just like if you could actually spend time with that personality, or you could have a force that's doing in this world. This, they talk about the consciousness of be, do, have is like this new mindfulness paradigm. It's not new, but it's, people are talking about it somewhat like it's new. But our being, we're human beings, right? We're not human doings, right? So the being comes first. And when we live from that being, that consciousness, then the doing naturally flows in line with the soul, in line with who we are intrinsically. And then the having flows maybe from that doing. But in the material paradigm, some people are attached to having. If I have $1 million, or if I have this nice house, if I have this nice husband, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be X, Y, and Z, right? And they've done studies, and there's no actual intrinsic relationship between the physical things we have and the experiences we have. Because there's people without these physical things that are experiencing even deeper levels of happiness. So putting that aside, in the material realm right now where we live and where we operate, there's a lot of focus on the having, and there's also a lot of focus on the doing. Do more, produce. Even when we teach to thousands of people. Become the best, become the most successful, become the chief officer of your company, become. There's a lot of like doing, do, make more money, work harder, climb that ladder, achieve whatever X, Y, and Z, standards you have for yourself in this world where it really values what we have and what we do. And it doesn't so much value the being, even though ironically, that's what we're after. Because if once we have all these things, we think we're gonna be happy, we're gonna be satisfied. And that's like the illusion, that's the carrot and the stick. That's like the carrot that dangles in front of you. And you're always moving forward and you never get it. So why not just unhook the carrot and hold it and have it? Which basically means concentrate on the being. And Arjuna understood the value of Krishna just being there. So that represents spiritual consciousness. If Duryodhana is representing kind of the material way of going about things, where what matters the most is power and force and strength and the numbers, the quantity of soldiers, then Arjuna is also there, and he is representing the spiritual consciousness, the consciousness of serving, right? He didn't actually have a desire to fight and win and to enjoy. He ended up fighting, which will unfold in this amazing story. He fought out of the desire to serve God and what God wanted and what God foresaw as what was good for the planet. That righteous souls should rule, and therefore everyone would be benefited instead of selfish, materialistic souls ruling, in which case no one's benefited. In fact, people are harmed. So Arjuna has this spiritual consciousness, and he chose Krishna. And to me, that's ultimately my goal. That's in a sense our goal is to become like Arjuna. So to know where we are now and to move towards being like Arjuna. And yeah, I'll pause there for a moment and take that in. And I'll just look at my notes for a moment to see if there's something else I wanted to touch. Okay, yeah, there is something I want to touch. So it's along the same lines. You know, for this verse, I don't have a lot to say about the specific warriors. I will mention that they're so detailed, they're so specific, they're listed by name. So sometimes people, say, "Oh, is this a fiction? Is this just a philosophical rendering?" And these two verses that we're reading and the one before lists very clear names. So my understanding is no, this isn't some fiction. These are personalities that lived 5,000 years ago, and each of the warriors, which I find quite amazing, are equal to Bhima and Arjun. So like Bhima and Arjun are famous, right? Everyone knows about the Pandavas; they're famous, but all these other fighters didn't become famous. However, they're that powerful, which, as if you want to research a little and understand who Arjuna is, it's quite amazingly powerful. So they're warriors that he's fearful of. They're warriors that are obstacles on his path of getting what he wants, and then the journey continues. And so the next speaker will speak on the next verse, where Duryodhana continues. So I will actually, just in our last 5 minutes, I would rather touch upon this consciousness, this difference in consciousness. So Duryodhana doesn't list Krishna. He has the consciousness of what is physically there for him to benefit from. And Arjuna has the consciousness of, I want to be with God. So in our lives, in our daily lives, we can actually look at that and look at where we are not understanding the value of being with God, of spending time with God. And myself, definitely it's true that sometimes I'll want to chant God's names and meditate on God. And my body, my mind, my senses will think, oh, I also need to, you know, call this client and take care of that email and feed my child. And so there's a list of these other items in my mind. And it's not to say those items are not very valuable and important, and they can even be service to God, depending on our conscious awareness as we do them, right? As we cook, we're conscious that we're going to be able to, that we're so lucky that we can cook and offer our service to the divine first, to God first, and to our spiritual teachers first, and they allow us to serve them, even though they're not right there in the room with us. And then we get to eat, in a sense, eat their love, because when they eat the food with their eyes that we've offered in front of their image, that they're accepting our love. They're not accepting necessarily the food. They're accepting the love we put into it. And so we can transform any activity into this loving exchange in which then we get their mercy, their love that they're bestowing on us. So taking care of my child, even my clients, seeing them as souls that are connected to the divine, connected to God, and how I serve them is a service to the divine, right? Depending on my consciousness. At the same time, what I notice is those are very physical, external things. And they're kind of like doing things. And meditating and connecting is also a doing, but it's more subtle. It has a softer energy. And sometimes the mind will not understand the deep, deep value. That if I take time now to meditate on God for 30 minutes or an hour, whatever time I've set aside each day, even though I've got all this many things, this busy life ahead of me, then I'm going to be in the association of divine energy, of my own real consciousness, my own real soul. And that will inform how I feel and what I do for the rest of that day. And I just want to share that our emphasis can be like Arjuna, that we don't even have to strive for it. I mean, sometimes we say, like, I'm going to try to, be more steady, or I'm going to, increase my meditation, right? But I'd like to even shift that to just decide. In a moment, we can just decide, this is a value to me, and I'm giving this priority, and I'm going to allow my consciousness that knows that spending time with God is the most important thing I can do. It's the thing that will wake me up to my real identity. It's the thing that will wake me up to my real relationship. When I say real, I mean permanent, right? This material world is real. It's not a dream, but it's like a dream because it's temporary. So spending time with God wakes us up to what is permanent. When we leave this body, we're gonna maybe even one day see this body. We might see it on the floor, and we might be out of it. And that could be shocking if we have not prepared. But if we've prepared and we've spent time with God and we understand who we are, then when we see that body, we'll understand, oh, that's a car, or that's a house, that's a vehicle. That's no longer, I don't need that anymore. That served me, but it's not me. Right? And that's the actual happiness that everyone's after, the feeling good about themselves that everyone's after, based on thinking like, oh, if I achieve something, then I'll feel good, I'll feel proud of myself, or I'll feel like accomplished. I used to teach yoga in New York City, very competitive place, and people would say, like, I need to leave a legacy, and I need to make I need to have an impact, right? And all of that can be great if it's from the stance of, I want to serve. So I want to make a big impact by serving. But what comes first is plugging in to that consciousness of who we really are. Because how can we serve if we have a consciousness that's covered with material elements? How powerful is our service going to be? How impactful are we going to be? Not very impactful. We're going to just be giving the same thing everyone else is giving, these material goals. So my meditation is that we could just choose in a heartbeat, in an instant, that no matter what my mind wants, no matter what I've been influenced to desire, right, by my company for the last millions of lifetimes, or my company in this lifetime, no matter what I'm pushed to do, right? I'm a little bit in the mode of passion, so I can be pushed to achieve certain things. I'm gonna pause and remember Arjuna and remember Duryodhan and say, do I want to choose Duryodhan's activities first? Or do I want to choose Arjuna's activities first? And thus, my activities won't even be Duryodhan's. They'll be Arjuna's activities first, connecting with God, being with God, you know, plugging in to our real source, waking ourselves up. And then our activities actually will be spiritual activities, divine activities, because they'll be informed by those moments that we actually took care of the soul. We didn't take care of the mind, the body, the desires. We took care of who we actually are. So thank you, Arjuna, and thank you, Duryodhan, for setting an example that was so explicit and so obviously not the right path, and yet we still are choosing it without knowing, without really being conscious of that. So thank you for this opportunity to discuss these matters, where I can become more um, enlightened and more attuned to the reality of what's important, and and can decide, not strive, but decide to be like Arjuna every morning, and then throughout the day. Hare Krishna to you all. Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you so much, Haripriya. I could listen to that all day. I need to listen to that all day. That was thank you so much for sharing that. Um, and thank you, for sharing these insights, and thank you to everyone who's watching as well. Um, these are wonderful reminders for all of us, and another reminder that these classes are hosted by Ashram Talks, a global initiative that invites speakers from all over the world interested in the study and practice of ancient Vedic wisdom. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can visit our website and follow us on social media. Remember also to like and subscribe to get notified about upcoming videos like this one. So thank you again so much, Haripriya. Thank you again to all of you. And until next time, I guess.